Boom, baby!
Rejoice, football fans. The NFL season is back. It's that time of year where the fans of every team feel like their team has a shot to compete for a Super Bowl. Yes, even fans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Arizona Cardinals. But 31 teams will fail their ultimate goal this year. 18 won't even get an invitation to the big dance. Which fan bases on January 7th will be looking forward to the 2024-2025 season, and which fan bases will still have hope of hoisting the coveted Lombardi Trophy? I've got the answers, and your 2023-2024 NFL playoff teams are: do the Kansas City Chiefs still have Patrick Mahomes? Check. Do the Kansas City Chiefs still have Travis Kelce? Check. Is Chris Jones still a member of the Kansas City Chiefs? Sort of check. Do the Kansas City Chiefs still employ Andy Reid as their head football coach? Check. The Kansas City Chiefs are an unstoppable force, only defeated by an immovable object: Tom Brady. The Chiefs are coming off a Super Bowl win over the Philadelphia Eagles, and if you were expecting a Super Bowl hangover for this bunch, I've got the perfect money-making plan for you. All you need to do is convince 5 of your friends to also join. It's simple. Patrick Mahomes is still going to perform ridiculous and absurd feats on a weekly basis. Travis Kelce will still defy the cliff he's supposed to fall off of at this age playing the position he plays. And the Kansas City Chiefs will once again be the #1 overall seed in the AFC, finishing with a record of 13-4, winning the AFC West. Trevor Lawrence will be heading into his 3rd NFL season with 1 year of a Doug Peterson offensive scheme under his belt. He made a significant jump from his 1st year to his 2nd. Expect another jump in his 3rd year. The Jags improved an already stout offense. They brought back Evan Ingram on the franchise tag, traded for Calvin Ridley, re-signed the versatile Jamal Agnew, and drafted Tank Bigsby to help the running game and help maintain the health of Travis Etienne. The Jags should have confidence coming into this season after finishing last regular season on a 5-game winning streak and getting their first playoff win since 2017 in one of the craziest comebacks we've ever witnessed. The Jags also have the 10th easiest schedule heading into the 2023-2024 season. The Jags win the AFC South but lose out on the 1 seed to Kansas City despite beating them in week 2 to finish with a record of 12-5. Some might point to Orlando Brown Jr. as being the biggest addition for the Bengals this offseason. I would say getting back a fully healthy Jamar Chase is the biggest addition. Even in a year he missed 5 games due to injury, Chase still managed to finish with over 1,000 yards. Burrow, even without Chase, still threw for 4,500 yards and 35 touchdowns. The duo should continue their success again in 2023. The loss of both Jesse Bates and Von Bell will have a negative impact on their defense. Despite that, the Bengals continue with their trend of beating Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the regular season, to Chiefs fans' dismay, but lose to the Jags in week 13, giving the Bengals the 3rd seed in the AFC and the AFC North title for the 3rd straight season, finishing with a record of 12-5. The Buffalo Bills are still an elite football team. The Stephon Diggs saga was way overblown. Josh Allen's elbow is much healthier than it was last season, so he should be back to his MVP self. The Bills are still missing a true second threat to pair with Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis has had his moments but remains inconsistent. My expectation is that Dalton Kincaid becomes Josh Allen's 2nd favorite target by season's end. The Bills have the 7th hardest schedule in the NFL this season, and their division is likely to be, if not the toughest, certainly one of the toughest. The loss of Tremaine Edmonds to the Bears and Von Miller needing some time to get up to full speed after recovering from an ACL injury leaves the Bills as a threat in the AFC, but not quite at the level of the 3 teams at the top. The Bills will finish with the 4th seed in the AFC and the AFC East crown at 11-6. In week 1 of 2022, the Steelers lost TJ Watt to pectoral injury. In week 4, after starting Mitchell Trubisky for all of the previous games, Kenny Pickett was told at halftime he was now the quarterback. The Steelers struggled until after their bye week in week 9 when TJ Watt returned from injury and Kenny Pickett had gotten more experience. This combination propelled the Steelers to a 7-2 finish across the last 9 weeks of the season to finish just outside of playoff range at 9-8. In 2023, the Steelers have the 8th easiest schedule. George Pickens will be in his 2nd season. Deontay Johnson will score a receiving touchdown. TJ Watt will have had an entire offseason to heal his pec. Calvin Austin III is coming back from injury. 2 drafted players in Broderick Jones and Joey Porter Jr. filled 2 team needs. And Alex Highsmith, who has quietly become a great pass rusher opposite of TJ Watt, will become a household name. Even if the Steelers have to win ugly like they did in 2022, it will be enough to make the playoffs as the 1st wildcard team and 5th seed, finishing the season 11-6, winning some games they shouldn't, and also losing some games they shouldn't. Last season, the Ravens managed to make the playoffs at 10-7 without Lamar Jackson for much of the season. Lamar missed 5 games for the 2nd consecutive season. The team also lost Calais Campbell and made a change at offensive coordinator, moving on from Greg Roman. While this new Ravens offense should cater more to Lamar's skills, it will take some time to get up to speed with all of the new additions. Zay Flowers, Powers, Nelson Aguilar, Odell Beckham Jr. Rashad Bateman will also be back healthy after undergoing surgery to repair a Liz Frank injury to his foot. Lamar will have plenty of weapons around him, but he will need to develop chemistry with them. Mark Andrews should help ease that burden at the beginning of the season. The Ravens will still have a strong defensive unit again, even after losing Calais Campbell and Marcus Peters. The Ravens finished with the same record they did in 2022 at 10-7 as the 6th seed and second wildcard team. This offseason, the Jets traded for Aaron Rodgers and added him to a team that went 7-10 just a year prior. Some may think because of the season Aaron Rodgers had last season, we are more likely to see a Russell Wilson-esque Broncos season as opposed to a Tom Brady Tampa Bay season, but Rodgers had a thumb injury last season that has healed. Garrett Wilson is a bona fide wide receiver 1 and should be among the league's best this season. The Jets surrounded Rodgers with some of his former teammates in Allen Lazard and Randall Cobb to ease a lack of early chemistry. Breece Hall is coming off an ACL injury, so look for him to get back to full speed about mid-season. At that point, the Jets will have a more balanced offense. The main reason the Jets will make the playoffs is their stout defense, one of the best units in football. Led by head coach Robert Saleh, the Jets will overcome their challenging schedule, 6 hardest, and hard knocks to make the playoffs as a 7th seed with a record of 10-7 as the 3rd and final wildcard team. Last season, prior to getting injured, Jalen Hurts was on his way to being MVP of the league. Some are questioning if he can repeat his success from a year before. One way to help him have a repeat of this previous season is to surround him with a plethora of talent, which is exactly what the Eagles did. The Eagles managed to retain Brandon Graham, James Bradbury, Boston Scott, Fletcher Cox, Darius Slay, and Jason Kelsey, the anchor of their offensive line. They also have additions this offseason such as Rashad Penny, Greedy Williams, and Marcus Mariota. The losses of Javon Hargrave and CJ Gardner-Johnson are notable, while the loss of Miles Sanders will potentially be felt a little less after the Eagles traded for DeAndre Swift, whose talent is undeniable, but so too is his constant stay on IR. The Eagles had a great draft in 2023, using the tried and true method of drafting players who played for Georgia, the team that won the national championship game. The Eagles will have a difficult task of repeating as NFC champs. They have the most difficult schedule in the league, but the completeness and their depth will allow the Eagles to still win 13 games in 2023, going 13-4, earning the 1 seed in the NFC and again winning the NFC East. If you have heard the noise of uncertainty around Jalen Hurts after his campaign in 2022, then you probably know that people don't believe Geno can repeat his success in 2023. If Geno does completely fall off a cliff, those people will be vindicated. But if Geno is even just 75% of the player he was last season, the Seahawks are in great shape. The Seahawks improved their team in several areas they were deficient in last year. They drafted JSN and Zach Charbonnet, 2 offensive players that will make an immediate impact. Kenneth Walker should be healthier coming into this season as he looks to build on a 1,000-yard 9-touchdown campaign. The Seahawks drafted Devin Witherspoon to pair with Tariq Woolen at cornerback, and they still have Pro Bowler Quandre Diggs. They brought back Bobby Wagner to anchor their linebacker unit, drafted Derek Hall to improve the pass rush, and they still have head coach Pete Carroll, who gets his team ready to compete no matter what. They'll need his energy this season, being the team that will travel the most distance despite not playing overseas. The Seahawks managed to make the playoffs last year when lots of people wrote them off. The Seahawks won't write back in 2023 and will surprise people, being the number 2 seed in the NFC West champs over the 49ers, and they'll finish with a 12-5 record. The Detroit Lions are one of the most interesting teams to me in 2023 for the simple fact that in 2022 they played like 2 different teams. They started 1-6 but finished 8-2 in their last 10. Their defense improved dramatically over those final 10 weeks. I'm betting on the Lions to be more like the team they were the last 10 weeks than the first 8. They improved their secondary with the signings of Cam Sutton and CJ Gardner-Johnson. They lost Jamal Williams in free agency, the touchdown leader for rushing touchdowns, and traded away DeAndre Swift, but signed David Montgomery and drafted Jahmyr Gibbs, who many see as the next Alvin Kamara, a running back who can be that dynamic player on the ground and through the air. The Lions have a potent offense that they improved this offseason. In 2023, Amon-Ra St. Brown will establish himself as a surefire top 10 receiver and a borderline top 5 receiver. Their defense wasn't great and needed some major improvements. To fix this issue, they went out and drafted Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, and as mentioned earlier, signed 2 quality secondary players in Cam Sutton and CJ Gardner-Johnson. The Lions will be the most fun team to watch in 2023. Their play and middle of the road schedule will translate to the 3rd seed in the NFC. They will be NFC North champs for the first time since 1993 with a record of 11-6. The NFC South is a challenging division to pick because all of the teams have obvious flaws. The Buccaneers just lost Tom Brady and have quarterback issues. The Panthers have a solid defense but also a rookie quarterback and new coaching staff. The Falcons' quarterback situation is unknown, with Ritter having played just 4 games a season ago. And the Saints have the best roster and quarterback in the division, but Alvin Kamara is getting older and is suspended for 3 games. That's not the main reason for my hesitation in picking the Saints. It's the fact that Dennis Allen doesn't instill much faith in me, having a career head coaching record of 15-38. In a division that looks to have all 4 teams as subpar compared with the rest of the league, a few wrong decisions from a head coach could cost a team their playoff berth. Even just a season ago, the this division was barely won by the GOAT Tom Brady after his team finished with a losing record at 8-9. I picked the Falcons to win the NFC South at 8-9 as the 4th seed in the NFC due to their ability to run the football. One way to help a young quarterback is to take pressure off of him with the run game. The Falcons went and drafted the best running back prospect we have seen in a long time in Bijan Robinson. They added him to a running back room that already consisted of Tyler Algier. The Falcons were one of the best running teams in 2022 and they should improve in 2023. They also brought in a premier safety in Jesse Bates III and signed Calais Campbell. The team with the easiest schedule this season makes the playoffs with an under 500 record. Picking the most stacked roster in the NFL and the team that just went to the NFC Championship game to not win their division and be a wildcard team is probably a mistake. The 49ers have no deficiency on offense with all-pro CMC at running back, a great wide receiver duo in Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, the best left tackle in the NFL, and one of the best tight ends in football in George Kittle. The 49ers are even scarier on defense, adding Javon Hargrave to an already elite unit with last year's Defensive Player of the Year Nick Bosa, the best linebacker in football in Fred Warner, and a safety who has a knack for creating turnovers in Talanoa Hufanga. If the 49ers had lost last season straight up to the Eagles without Brock Purdy injuring his elbow, they would be my number 1 seed in the NFC and would finish with the best record in the NFL. But Brock Purdy did injure his elbow last season. Even with reports coming out of camp as positive, it's impossible to know if he'll be the same player he was last season. That's really my only hesitation in not picking the 49ers. The 49ers will finish with the same record as the Seahawks at 12-5. The Seahawks end up with the tiebreaker, leaving the 49ers as the 5th seed and first wildcard. Last season, the Cowboys were one of the most balanced teams in the NFL, finishing 4th in points for and 5th in points against. Unfortunately for them, they played in a division with the Eagles. The Eagles are still in their division, so unfortunately for them and their fan base, if it truly is their year, their run through the playoffs will be as a wildcard team. The Cowboys didn't make many moves this offseason, but the moves they did make were solid. They brought back Tony Pollard on the franchise tag and may still yet bring back Zeke. They re-signed Leighton Vander Esch to be their starting middle linebacker, traded for Brandon Cooks to put opposite of CeeDee Lamb. The most important move the Cowboys made this offseason was trading for Stephon Gilmore to play opposite of Trevon Diggs. It also helps to have the 2022 runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year on your team in Micah Parsons. I expect the loss of Dalton Schultz to be noticed at least early on. I expect the Cowboys defense to be improved, but their offense to take a small step back. Couple that with the 4th hardest schedule in the league, and the Cowboys finish as the 6th seed and second wildcard team with a record of 10-7. There's a team in 2022 that lost 7 one-possession games, was one of the worst defenses statistically, and went on a 10-game losing streak. That team was the Chicago Bears, and they finished as the worst team in the NFL in 2022. In 2023, they are going to be a playoff team. If you only look at box score, the 2022 Bears were awful, which, well, they were. But several of those one-possession games they lost, they had a real chance to win at the end of the game or take the lead with very little time remaining. This is a bet on Justin Fields to have a major jump in his 3rd season and win a lot of those one-possession games they lost last season. The recipe of running him as much as they did a year ago isn't one for the long haul. He's going to get hurt again if they do that. One positive element of having a running quarterback, and this is shocking, he doesn't actually have to run. Crazy, right? Just the threat of him running is enough to move defenses out of position. The Bears improved the talent around Justin Fields on the offensive end, trading for DJ Moore, signing Deontay Foreman, drafting Darnell Wright to improve upon the worst O-line in terms of allowing sacks a season prior. The Bears also signed Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards to improve the defense. That shouldn't be too challenging given they were bottom 5 in most categories last season. The Bears have the 15th easiest schedule in the NFL, middle of the road in terms of difficulty. This is not the NBA. Adding a player or two usually does not result in going from the worst team in the NFL to a playoff team. The last time that's happened was just last season. The Jags went from 3-14 to 9-8 to make the playoffs. Combining the growth of Justin Fields plus all of the other offseason moves will propel the Bears to go 9-8 and be the 3rd wildcard team and 7th seed. Thank you for your time.